back to the Berg podcast. Thanks for joining us today. With me today is Dan.
Hey, everybody.
And Ford.
Hey, how's it going?
And today we're talking about managing work schedules. Actually, kind of like a work-life balance topic as we get through the holiday season. So managing time off, managing schedules with our teams, obviously managing schedules and time with our family, making sure that we prioritize things. And since last week we talked about sort of like being in that transition holiday period, it just felt like the right time to sort of talk about sometimes the humor or the struggles, or sometimes the ease of being able to do that because of our circumstances.
Well, I'll get started with a funny one. So Sunday morning, last Sunday, I don't know why, I woke up at like 6:30 or whatever, like normal, and I just went in and I started getting ready for work because I guess I had been off for so many days for like the Thanksgiving holiday that like literally I was like, oh, it's Monday morning, I gotta get I gotta do this, gotta get in to get the reports, whatever. And like somewhere during my shower, it thankfully corrected it. Yeah. So it was like, why are you doing this? This is Sunday. This is not Monday. But just like having, like, you're so used to your schedule being your schedule, and we're such creatures of habit that it's amazing how adjustments and, we only have 4 weeks in this time period. So you cram a lot of things in, whether it's visiting with people that you don't see very often. Maybe people are home, maybe different things are happening, and it gets a little bit more skeltered than maybe a traditional season would be.
Yeah, Ford, you strike me as someone who is like really driven by habit, and by that I mean like I can't imagine you have many days where you sleep in. Like, you've been doing this for a long time. You probably wake up at roughly the same time, whether you're showing up at the office or you got something else going on. Is that true?
Yeah, it used to be a little more true. Right now, I tried to for a little period of time, just because getting, through the small children phase, like to see if I could just let my body naturally wake up and just see if instead of having the alarm clock, just okay.
Yeah.
And then it was actually worse because then there'd be days you had to get up. And so you're kind of on this yo-yo thing. So I kind of, I'm usually when it's light, it's time to be out of bed. It's not really time to hang out there too much. I can't and other people will be like, oh, on the weekends I sleep in till lunchtime, and I'm just like,
holy smokes, lunchtime.
Yeah, I mean, but they can do that. But for me, like it's if you do it 5 days in a row, you're going to do it 7 days in a row. Like that's just kind of how it flows.
Ever like that? Like I was never one that I never would have slept. I don't know that I've ever slept till. I don't know if no matter how.
The one time I was sick, I slept till 2 PM, and it messed me up royally because you're like
you were like on a time shift. Yeah. You had jet lag and you didn't go anywhere.
I'll say so. I think I've kind of gone in shifts. Like, so all the way through high school, I was pretty good about like getting up, getting going. I had a pretty regular routine. I think some of that might have been like sports, and we didn't exactly live close to the school, so I had to get moving early anyways. Not middle school, excuse me. In college, I think that like weekdays, I was still pretty good, but on the weekends, depending on how late or how long.
We still need a certain amount of hours, depending on what time it started, right?
Right. Yeah, I didn't necessarily sleep more; just might have slept at different times. But yeah, now as an adult, I'm pretty much like, by 10 o'clock, if I'm not in bed, I'm on my way. And usually somewhere between 5 and 6, I'm waking up.
Yeah, so, I got to keep that in mind, because the other night I was trying to paint something, and I called Brian because I'd borrowed his sprayer, and I called him. I was almost 10, I was like just going to start painting because Brian and I run on mildly different schedules with that, where I don't need a lot of sleep, but I also I don't really need an alarm. Like, I have an alarm, but I naturally wake up about 5 minutes before the alarm by myself. I'll wake up. But that makes it hard on the weekends, because on the weekends I can't sleep in. Like,
I naturally wake up like 2 hours before the alarm.
There you go.
All right, that's not a good habit.
It's not a good sleep pattern.
You know what you need to do? Set your alarm later. Set your alarm about an hour and a half after you want to wake up. And then maybe it'll work for you.
Then maybe it'll work, yeah.
It might just be our age here. We're kind of aging or something, because I know like my dad always talks about like having, not sleeping as well. But no, I think literally my worst feeling, and it happened a couple weeks ago to me, is like I set it wrong, or it got turned off or
like
something.
PM versus AM.
Yeah, or like I swiped at it and it turned it off or something, and I missed it. And like my entire day was goofy because like, even though I caught back up to where I needed to be in my schedule and it didn't really affect anything, my whole day was just like, I was late. Like, that's not how I operate.
You know what happened to me? Both sides of this happened in the last 3 weeks. So especially around holidays, managing time, I'll end up staying up pretty late.
Sure.
Because we have people over and we're still working our regular schedule, right? I'm not great at balancing that. Like there's people coming over tomorrow and there's going to be 40 people at my house, and at 4:30, I mean, in general, like in 4:30, I'm still going to be at work. Like I'll say like, I'm going to get out early today. And it just rarely happens. I can do it. I have the freedom to do it, but I don't have I just don't do it. Before I know it, it's late. And so there was one night, and I think they were consecutive nights. One night that I had set the smart plug that controls all the Christmas lights that went on. So it was after Thanksgiving, because I wouldn't put them up before. That's wrong.
Ford doesn't know what that is. It's way too much technology. He doesn't allow that type of stuff into his house.
And so I set it by accident to AM instead of PM.
Oh.
So I woke up at like whatever time it was, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, God, how did I oversleep? Because it looked like it was light in the front of the house. I mean, we have like blackout blinds, but I could see it through it. But it was the snowflake, like the lights and like the snowflake thing shining into the room. So that time it messed me up because the light, when Ford mentioned that. But then the other one, there was one of those nights where I would stayed up late, and it must have been maybe on the Saturday after Black Friday, and we were up late, and I slept in a little bit so that it was light. I don't know what time that is. Maybe like 6:30. 6:30, it's light. I'm trying to think of when time change,
all the fun stuff
involved. When the time change fell. It was not late, but it was. And I woke up and I was like, oh man, I feel great. Like I slept great last night. And I got up, and it was actually that my phone had died and I forgot to plug it in. So the alarm, which I don't need on the weekends, but still didn't go off. And nothing happened. But I was like, it's so odd. I feel this good. And how's it this bright at like 5:30 in the morning? It was not. It was like 6:45. I had picked up like an extra hour and 15 minutes of sleep. So
it might be your body telling you need that extra hour.
Maybe, could be. But I don't have it. And that was sort of actually probably the topic we started trying to talk about, which is the difference between knowing what you need, whether it be for management of your balance between what has to be done at work and what has to be done at home.
Sure.
Or, for us this time of the year, soccer slows down, and I put that like air quotes because most people would say it's still crazy, but it slows down. And so I feel like I have, we have time. We should set something up. And all of a sudden you've completely filled up all of the spaces, in what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, what's the other thing that I always tell people that like I really enjoy going shopping, not online shopping, but like in this season, most people are in a very good mood because there's holidays around. They're doing stuff for their loved ones. They're just in, people might actually hold a door for you or, say, excuse me when they bump into you versus the normal season. But what's the other, what's that? I mean, that we're making it legitimate is one thing, but that whole like seasonal, like
seasonal depression.
There's another just because the sun isn't out as much, and you know what I mean. Like you just have that because once January happens, and then you don't really have any big things for a little bit over the winter season. There is kind of that the doldrums. I mean, they didn't used to have a clinical term for it. Now there's a clinical term of some kind for it, but seasonal dissociation, or I forget what it is, but it's amazing how, it is dark more than it used to be. And, that can affect that scheduling thing as well.
Ford stumbles onto something there, Brian, too, with the shopping. He enjoys shopping, buying things. Like I do not. I think you and I have discussed this. My shopping is very intentional.
So this might seem like out of character, but I really enjoy shopping for other people.
Yeah.
For myself, I don't care. I want the fastest, probably cheapest, most convenient way to get something done.
Yeah.
I order stuff online. It might fit, it might not. If it doesn't, I'm not going to return it because I also hate returning things. So I have a drawer full of things that I haven't worn once.
You just got to find the right person to give it to.
I keep saying hey, maybe if I lose 10 pounds or 30 pounds or maybe who knows what the number is. But maybe I did that. Then I'd that thing I thought would fit or that I thought I'd would look better or whatever. Mm-hmm. But no, I do actually really enjoy shopping for other people. I just it's funny. this is not the topic at all, but like I think that gift giving is one of my love languages. Like I don't know, I feel like when I give something, I've taken like time to like figure out it's like the right gift for somebody or whatever. Like I get satisfaction out of that. Gift giving, or I should say gift receiving, not my wife's love language. So she's like, cool. You know, like I thought I did something awesome. She's like, thanks. So
like, I thought that was I put a lot of effort into that one.
Yeah. Hers is acts of service. So she would much rather that I like do the laundry or like, you know, she comes home to a clean home that I'm oddly would have beaten her home and had time to clean up.
We won't get into it, but did you hear that story about Katy Perry about that?
No.
You should look it up.
Yeah. Look it up?
We're not going to talk about it, but apparently we're going to have to look it up.
Look it up. Okay.
She just said she acts of services too, and that, you know, that makes her really care for her man because if, you know, the house is done and the cleaning's done and stuff, that really is enjoyable to her. Yeah. And I was like, that's an interesting thing to put out there. And, you know, everybody now, a celebrity, they have to put something shocking out all the time. But like 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, it was this big story. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that if you do shop at all, do you go with a preconceived item or do you like to so when we grew up, we went to the store, it used to be called Brookstone. Now I think it's like a magazine if anything, but we would just walk around and you had a name of who and so you're trying to find something that like connected you to that person or like, oh, they like this. So that's how I like to shop is not having preconceived.
You like to not have any idea?
No, I just want to see something that catches my eye. That's why I don't like the online thing because basically you have to type in the item that you're looking for, or I just want to browse for a while and maybe I find something that I didn't even think about that would pop up.
So I'm a little different. So I like to have a general idea, but what I don't like is to be told the thing, right? Like I don't want you to
That's
say
not a gift.
I don't want to say like, please buy me. Yeah, I'm about to say like an appliance. I know rule number 1 is don't buy the appliance, right? But like, you know, Dyson vacuum cleaner model A17, like that. That's not gift giving to me. That like is grocery shopping. Like you could have sent me a link. I could have given you my credit card. It's not.
It's a bunch of gift card.
But if you said to me like, hey, I could really use like a new backpack, then I'll be like, oh yeah, I can get into that, and I'll like
do some research.
Yeah, I'll do some research, and I'll be like, you know what? Dan loves taking his girls to play soccer, and so he probably needs room to carry like 7 or 8 soccer balls around, and
that'd be a big
the volume or I need an extra water bottle holders or whatever it is.
So
yes, and I can see that. But so it's funny. I if I'm going to like shopping, I like it to be spontaneous, like that we're just going to go wander around. I'm not really looking for anything, and if we find something, then great, but not in like a Target. Right. Like, so what I don't want to do, or, you know what I mean? Like, that's not fun to me to like, even if it's like Macy's, you pick any level you want. I don't care. Like Nordstrom, it doesn't matter. I do not want to wander around aimlessly with no idea of we're just wandering. But you know what I mean? So like, it's a really weird.
Yeah. Same. I also don't like the obligation of being like, well, I need to buy one more gift. Like, I'm like, I found what I wanted, or I didn't find what I wanted, or
and
gift cards.
The girls ask me constantly, like, I don't know if you might still get it. You probably get it now. You're starting to, where the girls are like, what do you want for Christmas? And I'm like, if I wanted something, I would have bought something.
Yeah.
And so we went back and forth with this. And finally I said, girls, if you go to the store and you see something that you think I'd like, then buy it. And I'm sure I'm like it because you bought it. Right. But if I needed something.
Well, and even like when you receive a gift, and it might not be so I have a big issue with gift cards because they just are too generic.
Right.
I mean, they're good, cool. I mean, I'm not going to not use them, but it's just that like, I'd rather someone give me something that isn't what I want, but I know that they put the time and effort into it, than to get me a generic thing. Yeah. You know, Brian, it's amazing how that works.
For buying Ford gifts.
I mean, I've got many things that like have zero.
Secret Santa list.
Oh boy, that's rough.
I've got many things that didn't have a lot of function, but they're probably still around because I knew that the person that was trying to get them for you thought for some reason that you'd have interest in X, Y, Z, you know. I don't know how many pocket knives.
Oh yeah, pocket knives. That's a good one. I asked for a pocket knife recently.
Well, that makes it not a gift if you asked for it. Well, you didn't narrow it down.
He didn't send the link to the exact Buck website.
I did not at all. I said, I could use a new pocket knife. And that was it.
That was it. You left it at that.
I got a gift card.
No, you didn't, did you?
The Tractor Supply.
And they said he's going to do a lot of research and wanted a certain one. I'm not playing.
Yeah, I got a gift card, but it's okay. It's okay. They're like, yeah, go pick out what you want. I'm like, yeah, I will. I'm going to. I'm going to spend it. I'm going to get what I want.
Yeah.
I'll probably let's spend a little more and get
upgrade to a different version.
Right.
You got a baseline, so whatever extra is less than what you're going to spend in the first place, so it's a win.
Yeah, exactly. But that's too funny.
That's funny. Aaron, they just asked me again, and I was like, you know what I want? I want socks. I was like, Aaron, that's where we've reached in our life. I'm just going to pick the simplest thing that I actually need.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to make me tell you, I don't know.
So
I also told her, I said, I'd like vocal mantra skis, which is, I know she won't get, there's no way. I would get them used, which would be tricky. But if you're going to have to buy them new, there's no way. That's not a Christmas present.
And that's she's got to know what size you want, and she's got there's a lot.
I did do that last year though. I don't know if we talked about that. That I got Aaron skis for Christmas last year.
That's cool.
So I found the exact ones that would be best for her based on how she skis. I was going out on a limb here. It was you and I do. Brian and I do this. We both of our wives if we would just clean the house and mow the grass. I don't know, do something that is outside. Maybe not mow the grass, outside of what we are already deemed to be responsible for, to show that we care and we realize they have to do things. And instead, I'm like, what would be really cool though is if I drove 2 hours and got a really good deal on these skis, and she really appreciated it. They're awesome, but probably would have gotten more bang for my buck had I cleaned the kitchen or something.
Sure. Yeah. But you have to do the task. I messed this up one time. I thought I was
hired a service,
buying the gift of time,
mm-hmm.
right? Really, not struggling. I would never say struggling, but it's interfering with other stuff, cleaning the house. We got kids coming home late at night, and I'm like, you know what I'll do? I'll pay for a cleaning service as a gift. Right. No, that's not a gift.
As a typical guy, logical explanation for an answer for the situation.
Yes, it was a solutions-based gift, and the answer was actually I should be cleaning the house.
Yeah, you know what I was wondering, and when we think this through, because you and I have talked about this, you warned me about this a year I was going to do it. That's how the first time you ever told me the story was I was going to do it, and you were like, don't do it.
Don't do that. Yeah.
But I actually thought, what if I bought the gifts for myself? Right? What if I said you know what I would like? I would like if you bought me somebody to clean the house, right? Would that we have to go to
and then we go out we'll go to dinner and spend time with you.
Spend time together, but it would be Aaron's gift to me. Ford, would that work?
I don't know. I feel like she might read into that. She might be like,
are you saying our house isn't clean or something?
Yeah.
It seemed like
I think we were trying to go about juggling our time, and we're all just getting ourselves into deeper trouble. So hopefully people don't listen to this podcast.
Yeah, hopefully they don't listen to it. I mean, the truth is, managing the time is hard.
It is.
Right? It is hard, especially this time of year. I hate when people say it's a late Thanksgiving, but the reality is it is, and then you end up squeezing a bunch of stuff in, and there's not enough weekends. That's my reality is I don't have enough weekends to play the soccer we want to play, see the family we want to see, and go get a Christmas tree and, try and see the people we want to see. There's not enough weekends.
How about, do you guys like that some people, this, we talked about being big about the whole Thanksgiving to start the Christmas season, but I have no problem with moving things into the beginning of January.
Mm-hmm.
So that they're not all compressed into a short time frame.
Like New Year's. Can we do that the 7th or 8th of January?
Yeah. Right. Because I'll still do a get together. Because if you were talking about not New Year's resolution, but it's okay, some of these people that I'm trying to squeeze in to see, if I would call them up and schedule something for the middle of January,
right?
All of our schedules don't have to align anymore because there's not 100 things to do. Yeah. We still get to see them, and that's a dead season when there's not there should be more availability to actually spend time with that person.
Yeah, no, I get that for sure. I'm just trying to think of what that would look like, but it sounds like you're talking about gatherings with friends and family,
for Christmas or Thanksgiving.
Yeah, man. My one family, they don't, because of logistics, they do it between Christmas and New Year's, right? Yeah. It's close enough, but I just mean some of these other events that we're trying to all
No, I have
squeeze in. Like there's corporate events that they want us to go to. Like some of our vendors want us to go to things, and
they're all trying to do it the weeks leading up to Christmas. And
it's like, and we had like a list of them. I think we had like 6 items of like, but with, trying to make sure there's care for children and stuff. You're literally weaning down the list because they're all within like 2 weeks. You're like, all right, well, I asked someone to help. I can't ask them to help 3 days in a row. And so you're like, okay, if it was a spread out thing,
popular.
It would work out.
Many events.
Yeah.
We could watch the kids, but I can't guarantee they won't get injured. So they would eat the right food. We'd be fine with that. But I don't know.
They may come back with soccer balls.
They may come back. Well, they may come back with soccer balls or dented, lightly dented. But no, we do that actually, and I think it's really effective. The only pushback we had initially was they would say like that it wasn't on the holiday, right? So like, oh, but you're not seeing me on Christmas or on Thanksgiving. I'm like, no, I get that. But so they feel like they're not prioritized. That was the problem I had. But I sort of talked through that you'll get a more valuable experience because we're not rushed and forced into doing it at a certain time. Let's do it when it's convenient for all of us,
right?
And do that.
Well, I do feel like maybe in your situation, like proximity also becomes a problem because no one's far enough away that it's like, so like in our situation, we don't generally see my in-laws on Christmas or even the days surrounding Christmas because of travel, right? We usually spend Thanksgiving with them, but then of course want to like celebrate Christmas in some way with them. But we're not going to be able to squeeze in locally our family here and our family that's 4.5 hours away. It's just doesn't work. So I think logistically that makes it easier because we'll sometime, between Christmas and New Year's, or sometimes even like some weekend in January in the future, that's when we'll get together with them and finally do that piece. But if they're all close by, like your family's all within 2 hours?
Within 2 hours.
Yeah,
roughly.
Roughly.
Yeah. The majority of them.
That probably makes it more difficult, I would assume, because
it makes it easier and more difficult.
Yes.
Because it's not, it is reasonable to expect me to go. Now, what we've done the whole time is Christmas Eve, we go to New Jersey, which seems crazy because you got to be ready for Christmas morning and we don't get back until probably midnight. But we've adapted and made that work as a plan, and it gets the girls to be able to see everybody and us home on Christmas, which is important for me. I really don't want to go anywhere on Christmas. I'd like to stay home.
Do you guys struggle with this at all? Like, and I think probably all of us in different ways, but like, especially with Allison working in the school district, like they've got a lot of days off around the Christmas holiday. And at times I'm like, sometimes our jobs are flexible enough that we can sneak away for an extra day or two. And sometimes they're just not. Things going on, end of the year stuff, whatever it might be. Do you guys struggle with trying to balance that at all? Like your wives, families potentially having more flexibility, more time off around the holiday season, and like trying to be like, okay, how do I prioritize spending that time with them, but also managing my work obligations?
That is definitely something I was just with a friend of mine, and his fiance has like a job where it has, rigidity to the schedule, simplicity factor to it. And so like, and he doesn't. And so there's always kind of that like, that's even for vacations too, but it just creates that scenario where like, oh, middle of the day, she's going to go run and do X, Y, and Z. And I can't do it because I need to be at my position, which makes then the time that you do have off more, not valuable, but you have to really be intentional about it because you just don't have that fluidity to jump and go as other people might be able to.
Yeah, sure. I think that really hits on like one of the cores of this, of what's an issue for me that I struggle with managing, which is I don't ever think Erin or the girls would be overly upset if I said like they have off, but I have to go to work.
Sure.
Right. But I think what I don't do a great job of is planning for the fact that they have off. Right. So like in other words, you always say like Christmas comes every year and people say like, oh man, I'm not ready. Like, well, you knew the day it was the whole time.
Right.
And so like, I know the girls, I think they have off the 20th or the 20th, they have a half day and then they have off to the 2nd. It's pretty normal for what schools are this year. It's not extended. So I know there's days in there that they have off that I don't. But I don't really generally make any effort to say like, oh, okay, well, what days do you need me? Would you like to do something? You know what I mean? I just say like, well, tell me what day it is that you're doing something and I'll see if I can do it. And then I You know, I also build my schedule of what I'm responsible for and what I have to do. So then I like double book myself unnecessarily, right? Like I just don't manage it effectively. Whereas if I just said like, hey, Brian Ford, I'm not going to be in on this day and this day. I'm going to take Tuesday and the following Tuesday off during that break so I can do these two things. And be like, okay, yeah, that's fine.
Right.
You know, that's fine. But I don't do that. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, I got a meeting that Tuesday. Okay, yeah, I can do that thing, but I do have to make a call.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't create the separation that probably they deserve.
And then you feel like you're trying to squeeze them in,
Yeah.
or they feel like they're being squeezed in.
They feel like they're being squeezed in.
Yep.
And I feel like I try to accommodate them.
Yeah,
So it creates a tense situation unnecessarily because I don't plan for it.
Yeah, that's one of those things that's so humorous. Like, you just have to get to a different perspective on is that, like, all right, you're going to go home at lunchtime. You're going to take off the afternoon that day for something. But, you know, you got a call at 3 o'clock. From 3 to 3:30, you got a call you got to be on. So you get on the call and you're getting like these looks and like, you know, people are trying to get your attention and you're like, you know, from a male perspective or just my own stupid perspective, it's like, oh, well, I came and I'm here, but I just had this one little window where I needed to step away from. So I think I'm still doing it. It's like, well, if you're going to do that, you might as well just not come home at all. And it's like, but I was here from 12 to 3. And that's like, that's completely wiped out. It's kind of like, you know, you said about the cleaning thing. It's like the behind the scene, the theory behind it makes it seem like it was beneficial and it actually didn't create the benefit that you intended it to.
Done with the right intention and just the perception of what you were trying to do felt like it was an afterthought or that something else was as or more important than whatever else was going on. Yeah.
So do you think along these lines, and we're like around the topic that we started with, but so do you think, I think I make additional effort to try and communicate with everybody, with our team, to try and be intentional about letting them know what I'm thinking and what I want to do and where I think we're going, and when I can to get their input as much as possible. And sometimes get their input after the fact, but regardless, try to. But I don't know that I take that same level of intentionality in my own personal life. You know what I mean? Like in my personal life, I'm like, okay, well, exactly what Ford said. Like, I don't understand how you can be upset. Like, the girls had chapel, you know, not this morning. Well, they did, but I didn't go. But the girls had chapel. I went to chapel. I said hi to a few people. I went to work 2 hours later than I normally would. Like, I don't understand. Like, I already allotted that time. But what they might see is you said you were going to go to chapel and you made 4 phone calls while we were driving to school. And then we went in and you stayed outside and made 1 more phone call. And then as soon as it was done, you left. Right. And, but in other words, but from my perspective, I'm like, okay, but the time that was deemed relevant when I wanted to be engaged with you, I paid attention. I wasn't distracted. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's all perception, and it's hard for me sometimes to see the other people's side in an argument, or not an argument, of their perception. I don't see it. I see it from the logic that I use to arrive at the decision.
Yeah, no, I am right there with you. And, I do feel like as you're talking there, I'm like, wow, it's such an odd juxtaposition to be in, to say, like, I would say we're all, maybe our teams disagree, but I think we're all fairly good leaders of our teams, but mostly because of communicating and scheduling and structure and all of those things. Like, why would I not take the same approach? Because I don't want it to be businesslike. I don't want it to be cold.
Yes.
I don't want it to be
transactional.
Yeah, I don't want it to be transactional, but I think in some regards, because I don't give it that level of attention or detail, it often feels like it's not a priority, or, you know, interesting.
Well, you know, actually Luke, and I won't go down the road very far, but like Luke is very scheduled, right? And we'll schedule everything. And that's where I came up with the idea that I would schedule a phone call with Erin every day on my calendar, every weekday, so that it would pop up and I'd say like, oh man, it's 2:00. I got to let Erin know, am I going to be home at 4, at 5, at 6? Do I have something to go? Is there a meeting at night that I have to go to? You know what I mean? Am I going to meet her directly somewhere and we'll exchange kids there, you know, to manage whatever our evening is? Will I be home for dinner? All those sort of things. I made it a meeting, which seems like cold. It seems transactional, that like, well, I have to call my wife at 2:00, right. But when it works effectively, it's them realizing that I made time in my day to say like, okay, we're going to have a conversation so that everybody can know where we're going, you know? And so it is received very different than I even perceive it. You know what I mean? As I dial the phone to call Erin, I'm like, this is crazy that I have a meeting set up on my calendar to call my wife, but the person answering the phone says, oh, he took the time out of his day to call me and say, hey, here's what I'm going to do. Yeah. So it's odd that way because it's all perception. It's what the person sees. Yeah. I always love your line about message delivered, message received. It's what the person receives, not what I delivered. Whatever you said is irrelevant if they don't hear it.
Too much noise in the middle. Right.
I think another thing that's interesting because of what we do at work, there is a lot of time where we have to not only be concerned with what we are saying and how it is being received, but at the same time, there is that common goal on whatever that situation is. Whereas when you're doing it with other people, you're having that conversation at a 10 o'clock meeting. You know what they've been doing for the last 2 hours, and you know what they're doing for the next 2 hours or 6 hours or whatever the scenario is. But when you're talking to somebody that's not part of that world, and they might be coming from something completely different, and you're just not, you're not visually seeing them. You're trying to talk through the situation. And it's amazing how some of those variables you just can't grasp in that moment because, you're like, okay, I said X should be Y, and it's like, oh no, X is A, and you're like, I'm lost. It's like, you need like a temperature thing on your phone. You're like, all right, this is a good temperature to call.
Yeah, you know what I struggle with? I actually do it. I don't want to say intentionally because if Erin heard that, she'd be angry because she says I do it intentionally. I do not, but it is purposeful. So regularly when I leave in the morning, I don't see the girls. Charlotte will wake up. Charlotte actually wakes up to the sound of my exhaust. So and my truck is not in the garage. So if she hears the exhaust, which she does almost every morning, she'll get up and go to her window and open her window and like wave to me, blow me a kiss. She's the only one. The rest of them sound asleep.
Yeah.
So if I want to talk to them, which I try to in the morning, I will call them, but I'm trying to time them being in the car for 3 minutes to get to school. So it's a really tight window that I got it. And I don't know when you leave. Like they could be at school at 8:03 or they could be at school at 8:25. There's a 20-minute window. So I just generally guess the middle and call it like 8:10 if I'm going to call. And regularly they're like, you call at the worst time, but like on my side, I'm calling I'm calling on purpose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And if I say like, hey, well, just call me when you're in the car, it's hectic. Like I totally get it. That's the same thing they do to me regularly. You know what I mean? It's say, well, call when it's inconvenient for you. You know what I mean? But I do know that like, it's, it's a tough balance in, your work life with your family is difficult all the time. And at the holidays, it gets tighter and it's not any easier for our guys. You think about that. The people in the field, they have far less flexibility than we do.
Yeah.
And they're trying to make it through and do the same thing.
Right.
Well, we laugh about it, but we always talk about the same thing where like your phone will not go off for a period of time, maybe 2 minutes or 20 minutes or 2 hours. And then it'll go off. And while you're talking to one person, another person will call in. You're like, there was a X amount of window there where I could have handled these both succinctly without having to either jump between calls or send somebody to voicemail or whatever the scenario is. Yeah. But then magically they both are, called at the same time. And I think that, really what this all boils down to is just trying to cherish what you can, when you can, and being in the moment as much as you can, because there is so much stuff. I mean, last night, some service person came to our house at like 7 p.m. And they're supposed to be there at like 5, or I don't forget whatever the time was. And I'm like, what's up with this? I was like, well, it's the only day we have available that this can happen. And so we had to, I was like, well, they're late, cancel. Like, that's not our problem. They're like, well, no, we got to get them here because the next X amount of days we're not available to have this happen. And it was just like, well, okay, so that's just how tight the schedule is.
And the flip side of that, you make that like our own team. Like if it's 7 o'clock and a technician or service person comes, like that person's not with their family, and they probably were not on the they weren't like 12 shift. You know what I mean? Like they've been at work for 12 hours. Now they're trying to come fix whatever it is that we need fixed, and they're not with their family. You know what I mean? Like the immediacy of what we all need now is really it's sad what it's become. Because as we were talking, I even thought and we've said this many times in this podcast, I think, is imagine what it would be like if you didn't have cell phones, right? Like when you just our dads just went to work. And then when they were done work, they came home and in varying degrees did not have phone access. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think your dad worked in a relatively corporate setting, right? So probably could have gotten to a phone if he needed to, may have had a phone at his desk. I don't know, depending on level.
Yep.
My dad, because of what he did, could climb a pole and tie into a phone line. Ford's dad, Tom was not going to be gotten a hold of until Tom got home. So there's both a freedom to that on the work side, but then also an expectation on the other side. Like there was no way to get a hold of them. Like you had better have a good plan, and then hopefully you stick to the plan. That's what I picture in my head, though, is imagine trying to deal with my situation, with how my day would change. Maybe I guess it would change less, right? I guess you'd have to stick to your plan. Like if you said you were going to be home at 5, you just got to be home at 5. That's what you got to do, because you have no way to tell them anything different, unless you absolutely
send out a smoke signal.
Yeah, something. I don't know.
Yeah. That's probably an okay place to wrap it up. Yeah. I feel like that's one of those topics. Like we could probably.
There's no solution.
Yeah, there is no solution.
We haven't found it yet, or discussed it yet on this podcast,
or acknowledged it. Maybe we just ignore it. I don't even know.
Maybe we're just afraid to admit it.
If anybody has the answer and you could tell us, it probably.
Yeah.
Just don't tell me in front of Aaron.
That just creates awareness.
That just creates a
and expectation. But thanks for joining us today, folks. We hope that you got something from this, and we hope that you take the time to balance your schedule and